Okay, we're live.
Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Councilmember Larson, would you please lead the pledge?
States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
with
liberty and
and justice for all.
Erica, would you take a roll call, please?
Councilmember Larson,
Here.
Councilmember Villaseñor,
Here.
Councilmember Edmonds,
Here.
Mayor Austin,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem McCall is absent.
Okay. We'll move on to item number 4, approval of agenda. Can I entertain a motion?
I will move to approve the agenda.
I have a motion. Do I have a
Ari
second?
Larson, I second that.
Okay. Erica, will you take a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Villaseñor,
Yes.
Councilmember Edmonds,
Yes.
Councilmember Larson,
Yes.
Mayor Austin,
Yes.
motion passes.
Okay, we're moving on to item number 5, public comments. Erica, do we have any public comments?
We do.
Okay.
Um,
We're going to limit that to 5 minutes per speaker. Okay.
okay, that's fine.
I have a timer if you don't have one.
No, I can do it right here. Karina, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Hold on just a second. I don't see anyone either. We had a couple of participants who were supposed to join, but I think they're not here, so. Karina, did you have anyone for public comments under the regular ones? I don't believe so, right?
No, not until 7.
Okay, so seeing none actually, because there's no attendees, although they registered, we could maybe move.
Okay. Moving on to item number 6, consent calendar. Anybody want to do a motion?
I'll make a motion
I'll
to,
second it.
I have a motion. I have a second. Erica, will you take a roll call vote, please?
Yes, Councilmember Larson,
Yes.
Councilmember Villaseñor,
yes.
Councilmember Edmonds,
Yes.
Mayor Austin,
Yes.
motion passes.
Okay, we're going to move on to item number 7A, consideration and discussion of a proposed city 2021 legislative platform. And I'll turn it over to Dave.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Tonight, we're asking for Council's consideration and discussion of the proposed City 2021 legislative platform. This will be the first time that the city has prepared a legislative platform for City Council to discuss. This is to facilitate our ability to quickly respond to county, state, and federal legislation and proposals in a proactive manner, since legislation and proposals can move quickly through legislative bodies with insufficient time for the City Council to take formal action on a particular project or piece of legislation. The staff has prepared this legislative platform to that of the League of California Cities as well. The draft legislative platform is attached in both red line and clean copy for you. It was finalized with the legislative platform ad hoc committee consisting of Council Member Edmonds and Council Member Larson. Again, tonight the City Council may add, delete, or amend any tenets of the city's 2021 legislative platform during tonight's council meeting. Items tonight from discussion from our meeting is under general government item number 1, discuss keeping or removing. Housing and land use number 2, which is discuss keeping or removing. library service, discuss keeping or removing. Environmental, number 7, discuss keeping or removing. And environmental number 10, discuss keeping or removing. And we'll read those off once we get to that point of the agenda. And then our recommendation is that the city council discuss a 2021 draft legislative platform, provide direction to staff, and provide direction on how many council members to budget to attend the legislative action day, which will be coming up here in the next couple of months. Most likely it's going to be online, so it shouldn't be do I have a cost for us to do that as well. Or the other alternative is to do not develop a legislative platform. I don't know if any public comments on this or not, Erica, but if there's not, we can go into the topics to see if you want to make any changes to them and the discussion items.
We do have a public comment, Karina.
Yes, so this first comment comes from Jennifer Hernandez Munoz. It reads, Dear Mayor Austin and City Council members, I'm writing to support the additions made to the proposed legislative platform. The local economic recovery section is an important indication that the city will work to support legislation that benefits all of its residents, including undocumented families, as well as its local businesses in recovering from the impacts of COVID-19. I suggest adding an item to the environmental section that would support funding and legislation for food waste diversion and food recovery. Essentially anything that facilitates compliance with SB 1383 and or that would facilitate, sorry, my screen just closed. Give me 1 second. That would essentially anything that facilitates compliance with SB 1383 and or that would facilitate retaining local benefits of waste diversion and composting by keeping these operations local and in-house. Thank you for your work on this, Jennifer Hernandez, Fillmore resident. Estimado alcalde Austin y miembros del Consejo de la Ciudad, les escribo para apoyar las adiciones hechas a la plataforma legislativa propuesta, la sección recuperación. La sección recuperación económica local es una indicación importante de que la ciudad trabajará para apoyar legislación y que beneficie a todos sus residentes, incluyendo a las familias indocumentadas, así como a sus negocios locales en la recuperación de los impactos de COVID-19. Sugiero que se añada un punto a la sección medio ambiente que apoye la financiación y legislación para el desvío de residuos de alimentos y la recuperación de alimentos, esencialmente cualquier cosa que facilite el cumplimiento de SB 1383 y o que facilitaría la retención de los beneficios locales de la desviación de residuos y el compostaje por mantener estas operaciones locales y en casa. Gracias por su trabajo en esto. Jennifer Hernandez, residente de Fillmore.
Okay, I believe that was the only public comment we had for that item.
Okay. I guess we're going to open it up for discussion then between council and ask questions of staff or whatever we want to do.
Yeah, correct. We have all the strike-throughs on all the items there on the red line. And then we had the 4 questions in terms of discuss keep it in or removing. The first one to discuss keep it or removing was under general government, which was oppose legislation that increases workers' compensation benefits that will result in additional employer cost.
So my comment on that one is the wording around workers' compensation benefits. It kind of reads that we don't want to allow for for additional benefits to city employees. And I understand about the additional employer costs, but perhaps it can be reworded to just saying that we oppose legislation that adds additional costs. Because workers' compensation benefits, there could be other benefits that are allowed that don't, other benefits that come on to employees through workers' compensation that may not have a cost associated with them. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I understand, the city, taking the position of a city, right? And not supporting or opposing additional costs, but to say that we don't want increases in workers' benefits, well, that's, I don't know. What do y'all think about that?
I
I agree.
I do too. I just want to be strong that we don't, because, being a business person, being like Christina said, I wouldn't want any additional costs to the city, any additional costs to the, myself as an employer, but I don't mind if there's additional workers' benefits that someone else is going to provide that doesn't cost me costs.
Yeah, that was my point on that one.
Yeah, I think that's what we're trying to say here. And we'll clean up we'll clean up all the language after the meeting. We'll review it back and play it back so we get specifically how you want the language to read.
Okay, so we're clear on that one, Dave? Unless Lynn wants to. Lynn,
No, I agree.
we clear on that, Dave?
Yes.
Okay. So I guess we'll move on to number
To
2.
Housing and land use. It was item number 2. Says support legislation that addresses occupancy levels and strengthens a local government's ability to reduce overcrowding in residential housing.
So
That's a discussion item to delete.
Yeah, I'll speak up on this one too. My vote is to delete this one. I know when we first got it, Dave, it just is a vague sentence. I tried to understand what they meant by what kind of legislation would be around this: support addressing occupancy levels, strengthen the local government's ability. Is that code enforcement? I'm trying to figure out, is that what I don't want to happen is us supporting some kind of legislation that comes down around if there's an overcrowded house, sort of a call to code enforcement. Hey, this is a 2-bedroom home, but there's 8 people in here. And then code enforcement is supposed to do something about that. So I'm just not sure. The wording is vague, and I wouldn't support it if it did mean some sort of code enforcement or penalizing for homes that have more people in them. That's my take.
Yeah, that's essentially what it means. If there's overcrowding in the household, that the city would go out there and tell them you need to reduce your number of members in the house.
I would go with it as soon as we have enough housing so that everyone who's low income, I know people do not like to have so many people in a house, but if that's the only way they can live and have a space for their children. I've gone into houses where there are 12 people sleeping on the floor in the 1-room house. So, they're not choosing to do that. They don't want to do that. They have no other options. So if that's code enforcement, I'm concerned. I also thought it implied that then we would have more ability to deny low-income housing, and that I'm opposed to also.
And I kind of look at this in a different way. This is a legislative, if we were to take a stance on something outside the city, correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, or not. So it doesn't affect our code enforcement, what we're going to do internally. This is what we're doing legislatively, what we're going to write letters on, what we're going to take positions on. Is that correct, Dave?
That is correct. So if somebody were to bring, if somebody to bring it up from the state level and say local governments may, keep housing to only 8 people per household, and that's what you want to do, we would support that type of legislation. Or if we take it out, then we just bring it back and talk about it with city council overall. Right now, we have our current rules and regulations, which we do implement. This is for any legislation that would come down the pike from the state.
Right. So
Well,
we're going to.
I'm sorry, Mark. Go ahead.
So we're going to continue operating like we do.
That's correct.
But shouldn't we agree on what it says? Should we approve something that we don't necessarily want to abide by? That doesn't seem logical.
Right,
But
this item, yeah,
I
this
think
item
this is a
here
bigger
is for
picture.
discussion to take out, keep this item in here, delete it or add additional language, put it back to the ad hoc committee to wordsmith it if you want to keep something like this in. That's up to the members of city council.
I would prefer to leave it because, like I said, this isn't the stance we're taking inside our city. This is bigger, to me, this is bigger legislation. This is, if state comes onto us and say, we have to do this, blah, 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 then that gives us flexibility to go back and say, hey, we don't agree with that. Correct? Dave?
That's correct.
Okay. My recommendation would be that we keep it in there and maybe we rework it a little bit back with the ad hoc committee.
I would delete it and continue as we're doing.
Ari?
Well, I'd like to see what if we reworked it, see what they come up with. And if we don't like it, then we can delete it.
The they is you and me, Ari.
Right.
Yes, and
sure
I have
you know
confidence in
that.
you, Lynn.
Okay, I just wanted to be sure you knew that.
Yeah, I'm okay bringing it back to the ad hoc to see if we can rework. I understand that larger picture you're saying, Mark. Yeah, about that being from the state, but you're right. If it was more specific and was very much supported legislation, mandating local city code enforcement to do this, that would be another issue. I would definitely not want that. So, okay.
We're gonna kick that one back, Dave. It sounds
Correct.
like.
Yep, got that one. The next item is on page 6 under library service. We had discussion about that with the ad hoc committee. Since we do not actually have our own public library, we were with the county. The discussion ended up being, it probably makes more sense to take that whole section out so it doesn't impact us at this point in time.
I'm fine there either way.
I'm fine taking out the library services one. It's not
Oh,
our
my.
area.
Yeah, it's a county, so I agree with taking it out.
And I think if what we're doing this for is making it more expeditious for the city to be able to respond quickly to issues, this would be a big issue. This is not one that can be responded to quickly because we would need to have a whole discussion with the community and look at costs and all. So I think if we delete it, then it gives us more time and shows that we are responsible to our community. So I agree with deleting it.
The next item for discussion was on page 6 as well under environmental. Number 7, support legislation that reimburses cities for revenue losses stemming from environmental decisions made without city participation. And that was more a discussion. Do we keep that in or take that out? Point.
Isn't that for property outside of the city limits? Is that the one?
No, that one's the next one, number 10.
All right.
Yeah, this one here is essentially if legislation were to come down from the state and they were going to do some kind of environmental item that would cost the city
Oh, okay. I am totally
revenue
clear.
that we would be able to,
Yeah,
we would support that.
yeah.
Oh, I would
And
support
it
it.
says without city participation.
Right.
I've always felt that if the government comes down with a requirement, they should pay for it.
Hey, I'm supportive of of reimbursing the city for that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm good with that also.
Okay. And the last item is on page 7, environmental number 10. We've crossed it out, but discussion was we may want to keep in if we annex the Chevron property for the future. And the language was support legislation that reduces or eliminates local government's owner-operator superfund liability. Right now, we don't have any near-term plans to annex Chevron property. At one point in time, the city had that on their radar. but it did not make sense to annex it in at that point in time, as there's only limited items that can be done on that piece of property.
I'm pretty knowledgeable about that. So I would like to say that I don't see at any time that we should annex it, because if the EPA said, I went down to a workshop that was sponsored by the EPA, and they talked directly about our Superfund site. And they said that even if it is developed or becomes a park or is used in agriculture, that no one will be allowed to eat anything that's grown on the property because of the potential for harm, because of the danger for the soil. They did clean it up, but they cleaned it up by capping it. And because they did that, those cement areas or capping areas degrade and over time can become more poisonous. They also said that no one would be allowed to stay on the property more than 8 hours. And that's talking about adults. So if we wanted to make it into a park, little kids, we don't know the effect of the poison in the property. I think it just opens us up to liability every which way if we do that. And we can say we're not liable, but you can say it, but that doesn't mean it's true. So I would suggest we just don't have that on there. And if at another time we choose to annex that property, we have that discussion then.
I'm getting a little confused on this, because we're back to if we annex it, if we don't, but shouldn't we be supporting legislative that, I meant the overall policy that it states, shouldn't we be supporting that? I'm just asking the question.
Well, I'm fine with that. This just implied that we were looking at the Superfund site, and
I think that was just in case, it was just an example, but I don't think even if the Superfund site were to come into annexation, it's going to be a discussion between us all anyway again.
Right.
So
could you read that again, Dave, for everyone?
Yes, it says support legislation that reduces or eliminates the local government's owner-operator Superfund liability.
As that statement, I'm supportive of it, to keep it in.
Same here, if it's a general one, not specific to, because we don't have it, so, yeah.
yeah, I think it was just using a hypothetical, but I meant if the Superfund site were to be annexed, it's going to come to council anyway. I meant, so we can fight that battle if we're still here. I doubt I'm going to be here.
Okay, so we'll keep that in then. And those were all the questions from the ad hoc committee and myself for city council to determine. Everything else was just cleanup language and added a few more items to be considered under legislation.
Can you address the one that the speaker brought up?
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Environmental. Yeah, that we have legislation that we're doing that we passed, I think, our last council meeting to work with an individual to help us with compliance. I think it was AB 1383. I'm not sure off the top of my head, but there are a number of items that we need to do as a city to maintain compliance, and it wouldn't make sense to add the requirements that were brought up to this legislative agenda. And what I would propose is I will write that out. I'll also submit that to the ad hoc committee as we work on the new verbiage. And then once we get those 2 items done, just bring back those 2 specific items for city council approval at your next meeting.
Okay.
So then do we approve everything except those 2 items today?
We can, yes.
Well,
If you like, or you can push it to the next meeting, whichever you choose.
What you
Well,
suggest, Mark?
we're gonna have to switch the year on this. We keep pushing it.
No, that's fine. I agree with that. I can make a motion for that.
I'll second it.
Yeah, I have a motion. I have a second. Erica, will you take a roll call, please?
Councilmember Larson,
Yes.
Councilmember Edmonds,
Yes.
Councilmember Villaseñor,
Yes.
Mayor Alston,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
Mayor
Thank
and
you.
council, I do have to make an announcement. I take responsibility for not seeing the actual attendees on the public comment. I think they were not appearing on my screen, and then I refreshed it. And so I've checked with Tiffany, and we probably should go back to item 6 of the agenda so that the public comment could be addressed.
Oh, you
I
mean item?
apologize.
Okay, so we're going to go back to item
So item
5.
5, yes.
Okay. We'll go
Thank
back to
you.
we'll go back to item 5 then.
Okay.
And can you, is the speaker on right now?
Yes, we do have a few speakers. So what I'll do is I'll bring the first speaker. They're the developers of 510 Santa Clara. I'll bring them all 3 at once, and then I'll keep track of the time to 5 minutes.
Okay.
Good evening, Fillmore City Council. I just wanted to see, could you all hear me?
Yes.
Awesome, awesome, great. Well, thank you, Erica, for getting us back on.
Oh, no, now we can't hear you.
Mr. Gupta, we cannot hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I'm not sure what happened over here. I'm sorry, could you hear me? Or Kunal, do you want to maybe take over?
Yeah,
We hear you
We
fine.
can hear you.
we can hear
Some
you.
technical issues. All right, are you able to hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you. I apologize for these technical issues, but good evening again, and thank you for having us on here. And first of all, I actually want to thank all the council members for granting us an extension last month. And we're diligently working and on the deadline for the 25th of March to get our submittal in and getting it approved. And we're here today to update you on our project. So since the last council meeting and resubmittal, we've had a Zoom call with Brian and Kevin last week, and we went through the comments. And our architect, Lauterbach and Associates, is working on the responses and getting ready to submit them. If they, either today or tomorrow, we should have them submitted. And also want to kind of update you, we've also ordered a phase 1 environmental report for the site, and we've requested and paid for an expedited service, and we should have that ready, I believe, by the 18th of March. So we're heading in the right direction over there. And just last week, we dropped off a check to the city for $9,800 for the requested traffic report. And also, we've had a meeting with a contractor, Staples Construction, to get an ROM budget on the project, and so we're moving forward with that as well. And we're really, as a developer of that site, we're really excited about this project and the fact that we'd be able to provide the much needed housing in Fillmore. And we will also be requesting soon to be put on the agenda for next month's meeting. And I wanted to thank you for the time today and for giving me the opportunity to update you on our project.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mark, do you want to chime in?
No, I mean, we're not supposed to chime in. This is a public comment.
No, Mark Pettit, our architect.
Okay.
All right, I'll start. Good evening, Mayor, council members. My name is Mark Pettit. I'm an architect with Lauterbach and Associates Architects, and here to briefly talk about 510 Santa Clara. We've been working diligently with planning staff and other departments to develop a special residential building in the downtown area that follows all the specific plan requirements and combines the best amenities, security, and finishes that are really highly in demand in Fillmore, especially in downtown. We've been working with staff, and their detailed involvement has been really extremely valuable. At next month's meeting, you'll be able to see the design that we've been working on over 2.5 years. We believe the structure will be an asset to the city of Fillmore and a model for others to follow. And once again, this project we're looking at for young professionals that will be in the downtown area. So we're pretty excited about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Okay, we're going to move on to item number 7B, the Fifth Amendment to the agreement for 341A Street.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, or Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Thanks
for calling me chair again.
Yes. You were a planning commissioner for a long time. This is a request from city staff to have a Fifth Amendment to an agreement we have with the property owner at 341A Street. It's to extend the timeline of construction of safety items from now and extend the deadline to September 2020. This applicant purchased the property in November 2019. And since that time, the city's entered into an agreement once he purchased the property. There's a lot of structural and safety items that need to occur. We've been working with the applicant ever since. And we've had 5 amendments. That might appear like we're extending and not meeting items, but we are. City staff's very pleased with the applicant. They're not adding new tenants to the property. They're doing the safety items that we've requested, which required significant drawings, structural calculations. The corrections had to be, not the corrections, but the improvements had to be significant in their drawings and structural calculations. They got delayed a little bit with COVID and their structural engineer with some of the delay there, but the plans are now approved and they're ready to start construction and they're going out to bid. And this pertains to the safety items. Separate from that, it's not being reviewed tonight, but I just want to let you know the progress. The applicant is proceeding with all the entitlements to the project. We have a proposal from our consultants to help process that with the applicant, and we're moving in that avenue as well. So tonight we're recommending approval of the Fifth Amendment to extend the construction deadline for the safety items to September 2021. Sorry, wrong year. Thank you. That concludes my presentation.
Any public speakers, Erica?
No, we don't have any for this item.
Any questions for staff from council? Go ahead, Lynn.
Oh, I just want to say thank you to Kevin and to the planning department for working with people and encourage and coming to us for extensions. It's a hard time, and I really appreciate when you work with the people and really follow through with that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to make a comment too, that thank you for keeping us in the loop, and to the applicant for, like you said, maintaining and that good faith effort, right? That they're continuing to be in contact with you and to show progress. So that's, I think that's key, right? To seeing these extension or amendments to these agreements. Thanks.
Okay, with that, Ari, you have any comments? I saw you waving your hand, but I couldn't.
Oh, no, I agree. Just
Okay,
appreciate the updates. Thank you.
okay. Then I'm going to entertain a motion.
I so moved.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. Erica, will you take a roll call, please?
Councilmember Larson,
Yes.
Councilmember Edmonds,
Yes.
Councilmember Villaseñor,
Yes.
Mayor Austin,
Yes.
motion passes.
Okay, we're going to move on to item number 7C, City Council consideration of a further extension of the city's Fillmore local emergency resolution regarding COVID, prohibiting utility disconnections and utility late fees.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. We started this back in March of 2020 when COVID first hit, in terms of not charging penalties and interest to individuals who are unable to pay their utility bills and for late fees and for disconnections. This year, we did our last one was September 8th of 2020, and that was protections for 6 months, which would expire here March 25th. As a result, staff is recommending that the City Council enact the following for 2 months until May 21st, 2021, or until the governor rescinds his executive order, whichever occurs first. One, that the City Council temporarily waive utility billing late fees for non-payment by residential or commercial tenants impacted by the COVID-19 crisis. That the City Council temporarily waive utility disconnections for non-payment by residential or commercial tenants impacted by the COVID-19 crisis. To date, the fiscal impact, from not processing delinquent fees and shutoffs total $166,679. From our last 6-month period of time, from September 2020 through March 1st, 2021, that was approximately $98,000, $797 overall. Our staff's recommendation is that the City Council adopt Resolution 21-3807 to enact the above described protections for 2 months, from March 21st, 2021 to May 21st, 2021, or until the governor rescinds his executive order, whichever occurs first. Alternatives, that the City Council adopt Resolution 21-3807 to enact the above protections for an additional 60 days, or adopt the above protections until 30 days after the end of the coronavirus pandemic. And the final alternative is to provide other direction to staff. But staff's recommending for 2 more months at this point in time. And that's all I have.
Okay, do we have any speakers on this issue, Erica?
We do have Karina. Could I have you read the comment for this item, please?
Yes. The first comment comes from Andres Casas. It reads, "Good evening, City Council. I am in full support of extending the waiver of water non-payment penalties and shutoffs. We are still in a pandemic. People lost loved ones, jobs, and income. A penalty and or shutting someone's water off for not having the means to pay for something needed to survive is inhumane. Please extend the waiver at least until May 31st, 2021. Sincerely, Andres Casas." En Spanish, buenas tardes, Consejo Municipal. Estoy en pleno apoyo a la ampliación de la extensión de las sanciones por falta de pago de agua y cortes. Nosotros todavía estamos en una pandemia. La gente ha perdido a sus seres queridos, sus trabajos y sus ingresos. Apagar la agua de alguien por no tener los medios para pagar por algo necesario para sobrevivir es inhumano. Por favor, prorrogue la extensión al menos hasta el 31 de mayo del 2021. Atentamente, Andrés Casas. And there's a second comment from Patricia Zavala. Good evening, Mayor and Council members. My name is Patricia Zavala. My pronouns are she, hers. I am contacting you today in support of extending the waiver of penalties and shutoffs for non-payment of water. We are still in a pandemic. This past year has been devastating for many families. Many lost loved ones, jobs, and income. To penalize someone for not having the means to pay for a natural resource needed to survive is inhumane. I ask that you extend this waiver for more than 60 days. Sincerely, Patricia Zavala. Buenas noches, alcalde y concejales. Mi nombre es Patricia Zavala. Mis pronombres son ella, ellas. Hoy me pongo en contacto con ustedes para apoyar la ampliación de la extensión de las sanciones y cortes de agua por falta de pago. Seguimos en una pandemia. Este último año ha sido devastador para muchas familias. Muchas perdieron a sus seres queridos, sus empleos y sus ingresos. Penalizar a alguien por no tener los medios para pagar por un recurso natural necesario para sobrevivir es inhumano. Le pido que prorrogue esta extensión por más de 60 días. Sinceramente, Patricia Zavala.
Thank you, Karina. Those were the only two comments we have.
Okay, do you have any questions for staff?
Question, the rent that people are postponing, many are, has a quality that they have to repay it or a portion of it and the state will help and all that. Is there anything that this will be paid back, or is this just straight forgiveness?
This indicates that at the end of it, they'd be paid back.
Okay.
But right now, we're not charging any types of interest or penalties, and we're keeping everybody hooked up at this point in time.
Okay.
But that'd probably be a different discussion later on if City Council want to have that discussion later on.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Hi, I had a couple of questions too. On the alternative that the city council adopt the resolution and enact the above described protections for additional 60 days, is that different from the 2 months of March 21st to May 21st?
I should have had 60 days. I should have added 60 days on top of the May 21st.
Oh,
Yeah, I think
120
that's
days.
what it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, I'd like to entertain a motion then. Tiffany, do we need to read the resolution number on this one?
You do not.
Okay,
Okay, I'd like to entertain a motion to actually on that alternative for alternative number 1, the city adopt that resolution and enact the above described protections for an additional 60 days beyond May 21st.
I would suggest that we add or until the governor rescinds his.
right, that's what I was going to suggest.
I agree to that amendment to the motion.
Okay, we got that, Dave? Okay,
I'll
We're
second it.
only, we're doing the 60 days
or
until May,
until the governor
or until
rescinds
it's
his executive,
rescinded.
until
Okay.
it's rescinded.
All right.
Okay,
I'll second it. Sorry.
okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Erica, will you take a roll call?
Councilmember Larson,
Yes.
Councilmember Edmonds,
Yes.
Councilmember Villaseñor,
Yes.
Mayor Austin,
Yes.
motion passes.
Okay, we're going to move on to item number 7D, approval of contract for Kimley Horn to prepare the city's next housing element and accompanying environmental review.
Mayor, you're muted.
Oh, I am?
No,
No.
you're not.
Everybody heard me?
Yes.
Yeah.
I heard you clear.
Dave didn't hear me. I want me to repeat it? You okay, Dave? You got it? You want me to repeat it? Okay.
Got it. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, the consultant is online. So after my presentation, if you have any questions, he's available to answer any of your questions you may have. City staff is requesting that you enter into a contract with a company called Kimley Horn to perform our housing element and also the environmental document that goes with our housing element. A housing element is one of the elements of our city's general plan. There are about 7 elements. The housing element is not only approved by you as a city council, but it also is required to be certified by the state of California. and which is HCD, Housing Community Development. The state of California is reviewing the housing element and how it fits all of California and within the region of Southern California. So we can't be too fiercely independent from the region nor the state. We have to conform to what the state is requiring and what is allocated to us in terms of growth. This housing element gets updated about every 5 to 7 years. This cycle is an 8-year cycle. We will be required to identify our growth potential and how we accommodate housing, in particular to balance housing levels from incomes, low income, extremely low income, moderate, and high income levels. So our housing element will identify that. We will also have public outreach to the community to get their input. We're behind the 8 ball a little bit on this. We should have probably started some time ago. The state's requirement is for us to have this certified by January. If you enter into a contract tonight, we have it scheduled to have it approved by October by you, and then give it to the state for their certification. In this cycle, it's pretty favorable to the city of Fillmore, mostly because we've been doing a significant amount of affordable housing in the past housing element cycle. We can accommodate the aggressive schedule. The schedule will be aggressive, and we will be able to get it in on time. The consultant has significant experience with the state of California, so we don't anticipate any kind of conflicts between city staff and the consultant and the state of California. And again, so our review will be with the housing element and also the environmental document. Environmental document's a part of it. The cost of this is anticipated to be $165,000. It will include a community outreach that we've identified in there. It'll be a survey that increase the cost a little bit. The state of California is funding about $65,000 of this, and the rest will be the city's general fund. That concludes my presentation. You see on the line Nick Chen from Kimley Horn, and he's available for any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Any comments? I mean, any public comments, Erica?
We do have public comments. Karina, can I have you read those, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
The first one is Susan Johnson. Honorable Mayor Austin and City Council members. Hello, my name is Susan Johnson and I am the city representative on the Area Housing Authority. I live at 354 2nd Street in Fillmore. I also sit on the board of directors of House Farm Workers, Ventura County, and the One Step Alaves Center. I commend the city for finding a consultant to develop the housing element as part of the general plan and to have the final HE done by October 15, 2021. I thank you for allowing me to comment, and I submit the following comments and concerns. Community outreach is task number 3, described on pages 27 through 29, includes 2 virtual community workshops, number 1 in April, number 2 in June. Effective outreach to all citizens in the city is critical. Many of our citizens do not speak English. There is no mention of Spanish translation or how to publicize the workshops to the Spanish-speaking stakeholders in our community. Outreach should be made through organizations like One Step Alaves, the Boys and Girls Club, and the public schools, where the children of Spanish-speaking parents can get the message to their families. Also, the churches in town where the congregations are primarily Hispanic should also be used. Community survey, council is being asked to approve an amount for the contract with an optional additional $10,500 for conducting an online community survey. Here's the comment. Here's the comment in the staff report. This is a method for complying with the state's public outreach and is quantifiable. The concern for this is that a housing advocate or anti-housing advocate could attempt to game the survey. Nevertheless, staff believes that this is still a worthwhile effort and a more direct approach to reach people who would not otherwise speak to the city. City staff recommends using this public outreach method. I support approval of the additional funding. However, the tool appears to me to be quite complex. I would also recommend that you also offer a survey on paper, which has been done in other jurisdictions like Salinas, California. I am worried that the literacy rate among farm workers and other frontline workers may not be high enough to allow them to access this tool. It has become clear during the pandemic that access to computers and digital literacy is a problem for many of our citizens. Since the library is still closed, I would hope that the city will partner with other organizations like One Step a la Vez to facilitate comments by some of our more marginalized citizens. Also, the MetroQuest website says that the system is set up to not accept multiple responses from one device because of people stuffing the survey results. This could be a problem at central site like the library if the One Step Center is used. Page 24 of Kimley Horn proposal task number 4, draft HE, schedule for making comment on the draft HE task 4.1. Screen check draft is the first internal draft where city staff can clean up comments, and KH produces the public review draft. Task draft where the city staff can clean up task 4.2, then response to the city comment. It looks like the draft HE goes straight to HCD with no public comments. Task 4.4 responds to HCD and public review comments and says that Kimley Horn will facilitate the addressing and preparation of necessary responses to public or agency comments, including HCD, on the public review draft. So while HCD is looking at the draft, the public can submit comments, but if changes are made because of the public comments, when does HCD get to see or approve those changes? I would suggest that they issue a public review draft, then the public makes comments within 30 days, then staff suggests to planning commissions and city council what changes would be made to address public comment. Planning commissions and city council then make decisions after that public review draft is revised and then sent to HCD. This seems to me to be more transparent and an even process. I commend you on the good reference document, the requirements of new legislation 2018 to 2019. Pages 13 through 20 present a thorough presentation of all the new legislation affecting housing elements with the column on City of Fillmore considerations, analyzing the relevance for the city and HE changes. Regards, Susan Johnson. Now I will be reading it in Spanish. Honorable Alcalde, Honorable Alcalde Austin y miembros del Consejo de la Ciudad. Hola, mi nombre es Susan Johnson y soy la representante de la ciudad en la Autoridad de Vivienda del área. Yo vivo en 354 2nd Street en Fillmore. También me siento en la Junta de Directores de la Casa de los Trabajadores Agrícolas del Condado de Ventura y The One Step a la Vez Center. Felicito a la ciudad por encontrar un consultor para desarrollar el elemento de vivienda como parte del plan general y tener el HE final hecho para el 15 de octubre del 2021. Les agradezco por permitirme comentar y presento los siguientes comentarios y preocupaciones. El alcance comunitario es la tarea número 3, escrita en las páginas 27 a 29, incluye 2 talleres comunitarios virtuales. El número 1 en abril y el número 2 en junio. Es fundamental que llegue a todos los ciudadanos de la ciudad. La ciudad es fundamental. Muchos de nuestros ciudadanos no hablan inglés. No se menciona la traducción al español ni la forma de dar a conocer los talleres a las partes interesadas de habla hispana de nuestra comunidad. El alcance debe hacerse a través de organizaciones como One Step a la Vez, el Boys and Girls Club y las escuelas públicas donde los niños de padres hispanohablantes pueden recibir el mensaje a sus familias. También las iglesias de la ciudad donde las congregaciones son principalmente hispanas deben ser hispanos. Encuesta comunitaria. Se le pide al Consejo que apruebe un monto para el contrato con un opcional adicional de $10,500 para realizar una encuesta comunitaria en línea. Este es el comentario en el informe del personal. Este es un método para cumplir con el estado de divulgación pública y es cuantificable. La preocupación por esto es que un defensor de la vivienda o de la vivienda podría intentar jugar con la encuesta. Sin embargo, el personal cree que esto sigue siendo un esfuerzo que vale la pena y un enfoque más directo para llegar a la gente, que de todo otro modo no hablarían con la ciudad. El personal de la ciudad recomienda utilizar este método de divulgación pública. Apoyo la aprobación de la financiación adicional, sin embargo, la herramienta me parece bastante compleja. También recomendaría que también se ofrezca una encuesta en papel que se ha hecho en otras jurisdicciones como Salinas, California. Me preocupa que la tasa de alfabetización entre los trabajadores agrícolas y otros trabajadores de primera línea no sea lo suficiente alta como para permitirles acceder a esta herramienta. Ha quedado claro durante la pandemia que el acceso a los ordenadores y la alfabetización digital es un problema para muchos de nuestros ciudadanos. Dado que la biblioteca sigue cerrada, espero que la ciudad se asocie con otras organizaciones como One Step a la vez para facilitar los comentarios de algunos de nuestros ciudadanos más marginados. También el sitio web de MetroQuest dice que su sistema está configurado para no aceptar múltiples respuestas desde un dispositivo debido a la gente que rellena los resultados de la encuesta. Esto podría ser un problema en el sitio central como la biblioteca del centro de un paso se utiliza. Página 24 de la propuesta de Kimley Horn, tarea 4. Borrador de la HE. Cronograma para hacer comentarios sobre el borrador de HE. Tarea 4.1. El borrador de revisión es el primer borrador interno. El borrador de revisión de pantallas es el primer borrador interno en el que el personal de la ciudad puede limpiar los comentarios y KH produce el borrador de revisión pública. Tarea 4.2. Responde a los comentarios de la ciudad. Parece que el borrador de HE va directamente al HCD sin comentario públicos. Tarea 4.4. Responde a los comentarios del HCD y de la revisión pública y dice que Kimley Horn facilitará el tratamiento y la preparación de las respuestas necesarias a los comentarios del público o de las agencias, incluyendo el HCD, sobre el borrador de la HE de revisión pública. Así que mientras el HCD examina el borrador, el público puede presentar comentarios, pero si se hacen cambios debido a los comentarios del público, cuando llega el HCD a aprobar esos cambios. Yo sugería que emiten un borrador de revisión público y que el público haga comentarios en un plazo de 30 días. Que el personal sugiera a la Comisión de la Planificación y al Consejo Municipal de los cambios que podrían tomar las decisiones después de revisar el borrador de revisión pública y enviar al HCD. Esto me parece un proceso más transparente y uniforme. Lo felicito por el buen documento de referencia, los requisitos de la nueva legislación 2018 a 2019. Las páginas 13 a 20 representan una presentación completa de toda la nueva legislación que afecta a los elementos de vivienda con una columna sobre consideraciones de la ciudad de Fillmore, analizando la relevancia para la ciudad y los cambios de HE. Saludos, Susan Johnson. Thank you.
That was the only public comment we had for that item.
Okay, great, thank you. Do you want to go ahead and address some of the comments first, Kevin and
Sure.
Nick, or do you want to get comments from the council and handle it all at once, or what's your preference?
I'd like to answer the question now, and then have the council ask questions, and the consultant's available, and he can chime in and interject too. Susan Johnson's comment really pertains to just this. She wants to make sure that all the public has the ability to make comments on the plan while it's in a draft stage. And she wants everyone to have access to it. That's why she's asking for Spanish translations and that kind of stuff. I talked with a consultant, and the survey will be in English and in Spanish. They'll have people on staff who speak Spanish, and we'll do our best to accommodate them. The workshops will be public access to all, and will include both the developers and public and advocates and stuff like that. Anybody who would like to make comments on our housing element. That's pretty much what she's asking for. We'll include Susan Johnson and others that I know in the affordable housing development in our review. And we've done that in the past with Ms. Johnson, and we'll continue to do so in this sixth cycle.
Kevin, if I could just add, good evening, Mayor and members of City Council. My name is Nick Chen with Kinley Horn. Just to touch on a few things, Kevin is absolutely right, and everything that he just mentioned regarding Ms. Johnson's letter. A few things I will add. The way that she's laid out the process for review is exactly actually how the document lays it out. I apologize if that wasn't clear. There will be an internal staff review to make sure that we have a draft document. That document will then be made available for public review for 30 days. Typically it's 30 days. It's not a state mandate requirement, but it's the general timeline. At that point, the document will come back. We will incorporate public comments. It's actually around the time that we do the second workshop as well, to be able to explain the document and gather public comment. And then we'll make revisions before it goes to the State Department of Housing and Community Development. It used to be that public comment happened when HCD was reviewing. Now HCD and the state has essentially asked the public comment be reviewed before they get the document so they can incorporate it into their review and see what the community had to say. I've also been working with MetroQuest for a long time. We do surveys in English and in Spanish, as Kevin mentioned. We've conducted outreach in English and in Spanish. I'm not aware that there's any restriction on using MetroQuest for one computer. We've certainly tested it multiple times and done that a number of different times using one computer and never had an issue with it, but I would happy to look into that. We also have, regarding kind of safety concerns, has come up in the past. There's a way to geofence the responses to potentially only get responses from the city of Fillmore. The issue with that is if you have somebody who works in Fillmore who doesn't live there, who would like to live there, and they'd like to respond to the survey, there's sometimes an issue with that. We also can look at IP addresses and the timing of responses. We've only ever had one issue using it where there was around 400 responses within a minute. It was very easy to see that there was somebody using a bot to try and influence the survey and to remove those responses. So we have had a lot of experience working with that as well. I believe that was all the comments that we had.
I'm gonna open it up to council then. Go ahead, Lynn.
One of the comments that Ms. Johnson said was that she'd like to have a hard copy for those who don't have access. And if that's possible in English and Spanish, that it be available both in the library and at the city. But of course, the city isn't open, so that's a challenge. But that it be available for people.
I don't know. Oops. I don't, Nick, I don't know if you have an answer. So the question is, can we have a draft copy in English and in Spanish? We do provide some hard copies. We can do that, but I don't know if you have it in English and Spanish.
Yeah, it could be translated to English and Spanish. We'll have the language for both. So we have done kind of, I think what we call like usability type documents that are made so everybody has the ability, if you don't have the ability to log in or there's some need needs to be accommodated. So we'll have the language for the survey in English and Spanish and can easily do a paper copy.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Great. Hi, thank you.
Hi.
A couple of questions too, just regarding that. And I was thinking about the outreach and getting out to as many residents as we can to let them know about these workshops and also the community survey. And I know we've been told by residents that the back of the water bill is where that can, be spread around the community. And I was just thinking maybe there's a possibility for that written survey to be inserted as part of the water bill. That might be a way to get, to more people, to do that. So that's just one suggestion that came to my mind. Let's see, I think also it was mentioned by Ms. Johnson, but just also coordinating and trying to get outreach through our local organizations. And so I'd like to see if that can be integrated into the community outreach plan to work with organizations, as she mentioned, One Step or Boys and Girls, or, you know, our other community organizations that can reach out to our residents.
We can do that. We have their point of contact and we'll include them in notices.
Would it be appropriate for the churches? That was another suggestion, where primarily the churches that have low, you know, larger percentage of Latinx people.
Yeah, we have 21 churches in this small town,
No.
but we can include them in public notification.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Thank you.
And we mentioned Spanish translation for the survey at the workshops. Will there be interpretation services?
There will be. We have planned to have, we have staff that's experienced in working on housing elements and doing presentations. And just recently in Costa Mesa actually did a full workshop in Spanish.
Well, I'm excited
Thank
about
you.
that.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I want to entertain a motion.
I will move. Can I just say I so move, or do I have to read the motion?
I think it's okay to just say so moved, isn't it, Is Tiffany?
Yeah, as long as we understand what you're moving, and in this case, it's obvious, so that works. Thank you.
Then I so move.
I second. Ari Larson.
I have a motion. I have a second. Erica, will you take a roll call, please?
Councilmember Villaseñor,
Yes.
Councilmember Larson,
Yes.
Councilmember Edmonds,
Yes.
Mayor Austin,
Yes.
motion passes.
Okay, we're going to move on to item number 7E, appointment to the Planning Commission.
Thank you, Mayor. That's my item. And we're requesting for City Council to appoint a new planning commissioner. The city clerk's office received notification that one of the planning commissioners was resigning from his term. And so as a result, we had an opening. The ad hoc interview committee from City Council conducted interviews, and they are recommending for Mr. Aaron Todd to be appointed to fill the vacant position for the last 11 months of the remaining of the term. I'm here to answer any questions.
I was just going to pipe in real quick that we had some really good applicants this time. I mean, I was impressed with everybody that applied. Diane and I discussed it. We flipped back and forth, and we came down to Aaron Todd. He served as our VCTC representative. He's been involved in the community for a while, and we just felt, you know, I mean, he was the best qualified at this point. But like I said, we had some really good applicants. Yes.
Was he on the advisory committee for VCTC?
I'm not sure which committee he was on. He was the one that we appointed him. We appointed him to you were part of the council. We appointed him to VCTC.
Okay, so that's why we have an opening on VCTC. Is that true, David? On the advisory committee?
Yeah, we had an opening, I think, prior to him potentially stepping down.
So we have two openings?
Yeah, we will now. We'll have one opening.
One
right
opening?
now.
Okay.
When Todd steps down, then we'll have two openings.
Okay, all right, thank you.
So
I'd like to talk with you later on that one, David. Okay.
I'd like to entertain a motion then.
So moved. I'll make that motion.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second. Edmonds.
I have a second. Erica, will you do a roll call, please?
Councilmember Larson,
Yes.
Councilmember Edmonds,
Yes.
Councilmember Villaseñor,
Yes.
Mayor Austin,
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, we're going to move on to item number 8, committee, commission, and board reports, and I'll open it up to council. Go ahead. Floor is yours.
Thank you. VCTC Ventura County Transportation Commission was a really interesting meeting. And that was not sarcastic, it really was. For anyone who commutes or drives up to Santa Barbara and back, you need to be aware that starting March 15th, which is next Monday, they are closing a lane, and then around Carpinteria will be reduced to 2 lanes, and that will be for about a year because they're adding another lane and improving the side. So there'll be traffic. Metrolink now has a 5-day pass where you pay 1 fee and you can choose which days you want to go, which if you're commuting via Metrolink is helpful. And for those of you who like to travel by train, children are free now on the weekend. And then the interesting thing is the service patrol on Highway 101, it starts at the LA city limits and goes all the way to the Santa Barbara city limits. They have 3 trucks. It also is on the Highway 118. And the trucks go up and down. And if they see a car on the side, they stop and they either will give gas, they will tow them to the closest area. They don't take them home. They just take them to a safe spot, or they'll change a tire or do other charge your car. It's a fully equipped truck. And in the 3.5 days that it operated, they had 48 calls and helped 48 different people. So the trucks are very identifiable. So you don't have to feel like if it says VCTC Safety Patrol and it's blue and white, then they're safe to have them come and talk to you. And unfortunately, the money, we have a very active bicycle community, and there's been a lot of advocating for a bicycle path from Ventura to Santa Paula and Fillmore and Piru, and eventually Santa Clarita. And VCTC applied for a large grant that was denied. They're still going to try to use some of their own money to start moving that bike path closer, but right now that's not happening. And VCTC is starting to plan for the 2028 Olympics, which is fascinating to me. The Port of Hueneme reported that they do 9 billion bananas. They're the largest banana shipping distribution center in the United States. And they now have the ability to also do blueberries. At this point, most blueberries came from Philadelphia because they require a certain amount of refrigeration, but now they will also come out of Point Hueneme. And for those of you who have waited for your Amazon.com or orders to arrive, and they're weeks late or substantially late, it's because so many people are ordering online that the backup for the large freighter liners that come into LA, because it's a deep water port, is up to 50, and they sometimes have to wait up to 10 days to just get into port. So you have to forgive them. It's not that it's no one's fault. It's just that we are all ordering too much. And for the Air Pollution Control Board, they gave out more than $3 million to encourage people, cities, school districts to help purchase electric vehicles and reduce pollution. Santa Barbara got a new electric bus for the school district. Several cities and schools have purchased vehicles. Many cities and areas have installed electric charging stations. A new grant is opening up to help cities install the new fast charging stations. And I'd like to have our city get on the track for that one, because we're going to be left behind, and our residents will be too if we don't have the charging stations. And that's it. They were fun.
Anybody else?
Yes. Go ahead. Go ahead, Ari.
No, I just want to say, let our community know that there will be a free Junior Clippers virtual clinic. It's free at 4:30 p.m. on March 11th. And for more information, go to the City of Fillmore Facebook page. Thank you.
Christina?
Okay, I have a couple of updates. First, from the Ventura County Regional Energy Alliance meeting on February 18th. The contract for the Green Business Program was extended. Mr. Javier Saucedo is reaching out to cities, and I believe our city posted some information on social media about it. They want to start enrolling, I think continue enrolling, I'm sorry, businesses in the Green Business Program. So Mr. Saucedo will come out, do a site visit and evaluation. Also, he's ramping up marketing and outreach, and just be supportive for businesses who want to go green. So if any local businesses are interested, they can contact the city with that information. We have it. Let's see. The Energy Alliance also approved 6 contracts. Lynn touched already a little on electronic, the buses, the green buses. Let's see, one community organization, Mixteco Indígena Community Organizing Project, or MyCOP, will be doing a community electric van pool in a opportunity zone area around Oxnard, I think also Port Hueneme. I inquired to see if that might be coming out to Fillmore. It's not in the current plans, but it could be possible that there could be a community electric van pool for workers who can use that. Let's see. Also, they're doing some MOUs with Gold Coast Transit on a Go Now micro transit route. Again, the electric bus accelerator pilot project is happening in Thousand Oaks. And let's see here, electric remote motor pool expansion is happening as well. Let's see here. One Step a la Vez received a grant to receive a free energy audit and solar analysis. And that might be, I think that's ending now, but there might be some more grants available underneath that for other organizations who want that. And let's see. Yeah, more information coming soon from them. That's a summary of that meeting. And then let me just touch briefly on the Fillmore Piru Basin Groundwater Sustainability Agency. Mouthful still. Okay, the agency agreed to waive delinquent payments and associated penalties if they don't exceed $250. It was kept coming back to the board, so the directors agreed to waive those penalties that are less from that. I'm not going to get into detail, but there's the sustainability plan is coming about. There's a matrix, and they've been looking over the last few months at these different model runs and what's going to happen around water over the next basically 80 years or so. And so there've been these very interesting future projection models, and some good news has come back. Basically, in a nutshell, there looks to be, as these models are run, no chronic decline in water levels, no chronic decline in our groundwater storage, nor decline in surface water flows. So the bottom line is that the production wells, there are no production wells that are predicted to go dry over the next 70 to 80 years. And that's all very good news. In turn, for the submittal of the sustainability plan to the state, the directors want to be aggressive, and basically they want to have minimum thresholds that are pretty minimal. So seeing that our groundwater our subsidence and all these different things that have to deal with our water issues are minimal compared to the Central Valley, we want to have a lot of leeway, I guess you can say, in terms of our plan to the state, because if you submit your plan to the state and later on you're found to be non-compliant because you sort of only allowed yourself a little bit of wiggle room, then that can come back again, and there's issues around being non-compliant for groundwater sustainability. So because things look good for our 2 basins over the next, like I said, 80 years or so, it's looking to be sort of a, let's be aggressive in terms of allowing our water levels to go low, because it is very likely that they will bounce back after rains. So That's what came out of that meeting. And then the plans moving forward, I think public comment for this plan is going to happen at the meeting next Thursday.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to item number 9. I was going to say it's number 6. Number 9, City Council reports, recommendations, and comments.
Mr. Mayor, if I could just say something first, please. This is Tiffany Israel, the city
Okay.
attorney.
Okay.
I just wanted to touch base on the public comment we had with the developers from 510 Santa Clara. They made a comment about an item on the agenda for their agreement at the next meeting, but if they don't meet the deadline of March 25th, then the agreement would expire. So there wouldn't be anything the council could do at the April meeting. The agreement would already be expired, and the council, if anything, would be talking about what to do next with the property. So I just wanted to let you all know that if you were inclined to do anything, it would you would need to have a special meeting to discuss what you could do.
Thanks for that clarification.
You're welcome.
I feel that we would need to do that we need to have a special meeting if they're expecting to do April. So.
What?
I mean, Kevin, are you still on? I believe it is still Kevin's expectation that they will meet the March 25th date.
It's
so
the developer's expectation to be in compliance by the March 25th deadline. Yes.
And if it isn't, Kevin, are you going to ask for a special meeting?
No, I was not going to ask for a special meeting for them. They've been given the deadline of March 25th. We had a deadline in February. We extended that to March 25th. I talked with the architect. They're confident they're going to meet March 25th. Maybe as a precaution, they may want to have a special meeting to extend the deadline. And I just don't know where they are on that. They still need to submit more information, not more information. It's the same information we've been asking for, and we're waiting for them to complete that task.
Tiffany, wouldn't that be in their ballpark to call I meant, if they wanted to have us meet special meeting, they need to call the special meeting? Not them, we'd call it, but I meant, wouldn't they need to request it?
I mean, I think that's what they meant to say. I don't think they understand the details of the agreement and public agencies, and how to get things on an agenda and things like that. They reached out to staff today to ask if this could be added to tonight's agenda. And so we had to explain to them that, the agenda went out on Thursday and it was too late to add something. So I think when they talked about adding something to April, they don't realize that the agreement would expire on March 25th, and that once an agreement expires, you can't revive it.
So would we need to at least acknowledge that if they request one, we're going to do a special meeting at this point?
Yeah.
Only if you're inclined to discuss whether to grant them a further extension or not.
Okay.
Well, when we look at the old packing house, we've done multiple extensions, and perhaps it's I know it's a different situation, but I think that if they need that extension through April, I think we should have a special meeting.
Well, the special meeting would be discuss whether to have an extension.
Right.
You can't recommend tonight.
Right.
You
right.
can't
No, I'm
make a
sorry.
decision.
That's what I meant to say to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mayor, Council, what we could do, we can send out an email tomorrow and a phone call out to the developers, let them know that we must have all the information in by Thursday, March 25th. If they are going to be requesting us to extend it, they would to notify us by the 19th of March, and then we'd have a meeting on the 23rd, which is our normal council night.
Okay.
If we need to do anything at all. And again,
Okay.
Staff has no recommendation at this point in time, but we will have a recommendation definitely that night on whether or not to extend it or to deny the extension based upon all the extensions and how things have gone on with the project.
Okay.
So we don't have to make a decision right now?
No.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Okay, we're still on number 9. Any city council reports, recommendations, or comments? Go ahead.
Sure. Okay, I'll make a couple of comments. I wanted to thank city staff and community members, local businesses for participating in the COVID and promoting the vaccination PSA that we put out, and it was bilingual, and I hope that we continue to promote it with them as council members and via the city, and just keep it out there, because hopefully people will be watching it and be more inclined to have our vaccinations. So that's one comment. And then also we are going to participate as a city in May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and more details will follow. But I'm just proud to also be a part of that. And mental health is a very important issue across every community, and it affects all of us here in Fillmore. And I'm glad to put it on the radar for our community and take lead in recognizing that. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Lynn.
I'd like to propose that we put on the agenda for the next meeting in April, the Rio Vista Park. And I'll tell you why. We have there's the catch basin that's a part of it. And David has explained very clearly how important the safety is for the people, because the area that is fenced is used in the summer for all kinds of activities. And I've had multiple residents contact me concerned that it's locked even when it's lovely weather. And we have a person who goes every day to open the park bathrooms and to close the park bathrooms. And it'd be very easy for that person with a protocol of when to and when not to open and shut, because safety is an issue. No, there's no question about it. But if we're going to be safety for that, then we need to be consistent across. And probably a more dangerous area is the skateboard park, because the issue is, can you get a broken bone? Can you fall and die? Yeah, absolutely. And even playground equipment. In the heat of the summer, that playground equipment is steaming and people can burn, they can fall. Some kids use the equipment inappropriately and they can fall and hurt themselves. That's why we have liability insurance. The question about whether or not they could drown, that wouldn't even be an issue, because we would have it closed during that time. It needs to be closed, but not when it's dry. Like we're coming up to a potential 1.5 inch of rain. That's a nice little rain. It's not going to create a flood by any means. It might create some standing water. It should be closed, and not just for safety. It should be closed because if people walk or have soccer games or their dogs are running around on very wet soil, it destroys the turf. So I think we need to have a conversation of safety and protocol for all the parks, and that would include Rio Vista. So that would be on the agenda for April, if at all possible. But I need to have the mayor and staff and the other members of the council tell me what you think.
Dave, we've already been down this road, haven't we? And then I
Yes.
remember several years ago,
Yes.
we have already been down this road.
We were down this road, Mark, and I at the time mentioned that I would like to have it be open until the first rain and then closed when it wasn't raining. And I was under the impression that that happened, but it didn't.
I was under the impression that it was supposed to be closed from October to April. Am I correct, Dave?
Yeah, that's correct. It's gonna be, you're correct there. The first year we kept it closed the whole year because we wanted the grass to take root.
Right.
And then it was gonna be from October to April. The rainy season, we keep it closed. Starting May through September, we'd open that part up. Now that the retention basin, that's completely different issue than the parks or skateboard parks. We already have immunity or liability from that. The people who use that take it on their own risk. This year, so it's a separate issue between the two. They're not, they're apples to oranges, if you will.
Okay.
The playground and the skate park versus the retention detention pond.
Couldn't we get
from
the
that
same
standpoint.
liability issue resolved for that retention pond?
There are state, if I could interrupt for a second, there are
Yes.
state law immunities for playground equipment and express immunities, statutory immunities for things like skate parks to encourage agencies to have them without assuming the risk of liability from people getting hurt using them.
Well, couldn't we get the same thing for the pond, the retention area?
No, these are statutory immunities that apply to like any skate park, for
Right,
example.
no,
If
I'm
you,
not asking for statutory, I'm asking for us to come up with one ourselves. An example in school districts, field trips around water can be very, very difficult to take. So you have to really go the extra mile to make sure you get every parent to sign and all of that kind of thing. And couldn't we post that you're traveling at your own risk like they do for lifeguards at the beach? You know, there's no.
I mean, we could. I mean, that's just to warn people to be careful, but that doesn't protect you if someone gets hurt.
Right. And our liability wouldn't cover that? Well, this is a discussion of the issue rather than, and I'd like this issue to be on the next agenda if at all possible. So that's my request, is that we have this discussion open, because I sure have had quite a few people comment and contact me, and I'd like to respond to their and really have a good discussion on it.
I'll chime in. I'm open absolutely to having a discussion, and for clarity, I think I too checked in with staff about clarity today and understanding the reasons why. And also I too have heard from a couple of residents of just frustrated, saying there's why is it locked? There's no rain happening. So I asked for some clarity and staff did provide it. So I thank them for that. But I'm okay having a discussion to get more clarity in an open, as a, another part of a council meeting.
And I've been contacted probably by the same individuals you two have, and I've explained it to them. And they've said that they will come make their voices heard at the next meeting. So I don't want to open this can of worms again. So I'm not liable to go there. So you're going to have to get Ari to go in your favor, or one way or the other.
So Ari, what do you think?
I would like more information. I'd like to know how many people in reality want to have the park open. I'd like to know if there's how much the cost of adding that liability to our insurance would be, if any. So I would just like more information.
Okay, so I guess we're going to put it on the next month's agenda then, right, Dave?
Thank you, Mark.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll work on it to get it. But yeah, it's a clarification. It's not a park. It's a detention basin that has grass
okay.
that can be used.
Right.
So it's not a park. The park is outside of it. We're opening up for people to use that grass area for soccer or anything else they can do during the summer months when there's no rain out there. So it's not a
Okay,
quote unquote
that's
park
good
per se.
information.
Okay, thanks.
So we'll put something together.
Okay. Seeing no more comments, I'm going to move to number 10, city manager verbal report.
Just wanted to let everybody know right now, first dose vaccination appointments are available. If you would need to get your first dose, if you qualify for it, the best time to call for an appointment is Monday morning. They start at 7 a.m. And then online, and then at 8 a.m. on the telephone. For those with limited internet access, the phone number is 805-477-7161. And then also vaccine appointments can be made for those needing assistance by calling the vaccine registration phone number. Again, same phone number, 805-477-7161. 477-7161. And these are for mainly a lot of people who are homebound. If you have like oxygen tank or can't get transportation, give a phone call down there and they can arrange to come to your residence to give you your first dose vaccine. I understand that the Johnson & Johnson will be coming here to Ventura County within the next week or so. That's a single dose shot. The other ones are 2 doses. And the other thing tonight is the Ventura County Air Pollution Control District Advisory Committee. They have 1 vacancy open for the city of Fillmore. And this advisory committee is an appointed body that reviews proposed rules prior to the Air Pollution Control Board holding a public hearing on the proposed rules. The meetings usually meet on the 4th Thursdays of the month at 7:30 p.m. at the Air Pollution Control District offices. If anybody's interested in applying that's a resident of Fillmore, please contact Erica Herrera at eherrera@fillmoreca.gov, and we'll direct you in the right direction to get an application to fill out. And that is the first review of applications will take place on March 19th, 2021, and the position is open until filled. And that's all I have for tonight.
Mark, I'd like to add to this, if that's okay. It's not having to do with David, but Rite Aid now has Johnson & Johnson. You can go right in and get your 1 shot for your the pandemic, and they are encouraging teachers to come as soon as possible if they haven't already received it. So you can go to Rite Aid and get your vaccine.
Okay, thanks, Lynn.
Sure, thank you.
Christina?
Yes, sorry, just I had a couple of text messages that came in the last 20 minutes that our sound quality has been very bad.
Oh.
FYI.
Yes, like that's why I made the announcement at the beginning. We were having technical issues. It's being broadcasted via YouTube. And so if the residents are having issues hearing the sound, YouTube is working fine. And then after the meeting, what we're going to do is pull that video and then replace it so that it could be replayed via the channel 10 and on the website. So truly apologize. Yes, that's the only bad thing about virtual meetings. Sometimes we can only control certain things. And right now we're broadcasting via YouTube. I've had a couple of people check it and the sound's good there.
So hopefully soon we'll get back in the dais.
Yeah. That'll be fun.
We can actually see each other face to face. Okay, we're gonna move to item number 11, closed session. This is conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation. The city council will conduct a closed session pursuant to government code sections 54956.9 D2 and D3 because there is a significant exposure to litigation in one case. So we're gonna go into closed session.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye, everybody.
All right, thank you.
We are now good.
We're good? Is that what you said, Erica?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. The council met in closed session. The council has unanimously authorized litigation against Mr. David Storrs. With that, we're going to adjourn our council meeting to the next regularly scheduled meeting at 6:30 on Tuesday, April 13th. Everybody have a good night.
Same to you.
Okay, thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
everyone. Good night.